This is Guardian Radio, your station for up-to-the-minute news, intelligent, interactive, and engaging conversation. 96.9 FM. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
And welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Tuesday, September 19th, and it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is CA Newry, and I shall be your host today as we talk about what is trending on social media. There's a number of things that are trending on social media that brought in a national attention, right? And I wanted to discuss one or two things. But if you have one or two stories that you saw trending that won't get me fired, you can always call in. You can always call in and mention it, and we'll discuss it and give our commentary on it, right? I know we have tickets. Apparently the women's soccer team left some tickets for us to win.
Well, the Bahamas Football Association has given us 4 tickets to give away to listeners for tomorrow night's game. A women's national soccer team playing Grenada tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium, National Stadium.
Okay, so I'll ask a question then. I'll make up a quick question. The first person to call in and say which family group Erin Green belongs to, because she tends to mention it every so often that she belongs to a particular family grouping, and especially when they have meetings, and she repeated again and again and again. So if you're an avid listener to Erin Green, you can call in and say what family grouping that she belongs in, where she's served as vice president on their family organization. You can call and claim this ticket. That's good, eh?
Yeah,
yes.
What clan?
The clan. This is a clan.
Green belong to?
Yes, you belong to several clans, but this particular clan,
I just mention all the time.
You just mention all the time. But in social media, right? This is what I want to talk about. Several months ago, right, there was an incident in a barbershop, right, where immigration officers were.
It appeared as if people dressed in immigration clothing.
But they're being investigated, so we know that they're immigration officers. Yeah, they announced, so it's now under investigations regarding that. And I want to have that story just mentioned because I'm going to go into my next story. But that investigation is still pending. We have no idea what was the conclusion of the interrogation for that. But I want to mention that before I start my conversation. Yes. But the phones are lit up. So let's go to the first call. Let's see if the first person has the answer regarding what clan Erin Green belongs to. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hannah Hasty Time.
See, look at that.
There you go.
That's an easy win. So I do hope that you enjoy soccer because the women's team is dynamic, actually. They expect to win. And so I'm kind of excited to be there. Right? Mm-hmm. So we just need to give you some details. Of course, we have your number, but leave your number again and your name again with the producer.
Erin?
Go ahead.
Good morning.
Morning, cousin.
Okay, you got me then.
There you go. I got your information.
Okay.
Yes, and we can leave a message and we'll take that. Okay, let's go to the next caller there. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Caller going once. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. I was calling in for the trivia, but
I'll ask the next question. Want to give up one more ticket? I can give up one more ticket. Yeah. Just give up one more ticket.
Okay, so what island in the Bahamas?
Auckland.
See, she won this ticket badly. You just claim it. So I call to win. Ain't no play time.
Yes,
I call to win.
Tickets.
That's 2 tickets.
Take her information.
Take her information also.
Okay, so we get into the conversation and then we'll get 2 more questions to give out the final 2 tickets.
Yes. But let's have the conversation. The immigration department is doing a phenomenal job. They're doing raids. I just saw a raid where they apprehended about 40 individuals in Bimini. And I said, Bimini so small. to apprehend so many undocumented persons on that island. So definitely the immigration department is doing a good job or adequate job, and I want to commend them. That I want to add into the story that recently immigration had a raid in a hair salon. Right? And this is the second time they had a raid in this hair salon in as many months. Within the last 2 months, they raided this hair salon. Apparently, this is a famous hair salon owned by Bahamians of Haitian origin. They are Bahamian, they have Bahamian citizenship, but they own the most established braiding hair salon in the Bahamas, someplace on Camp Road, they say, right? And they have a large following of Bahamian women who go there to do their hair, right? In fact, they have employed about 50 to 60 employees in this salon, right? Working at a time, all the time. So this is a booming business. However, the owners apparently tend to hire Haitian nationals. So one of the concerns were, are they Haitian nationals or are they Bahamian in waiting? You know, those people who born in the Bahamas but don't have documents? Or are they Haitian nationals who have some form of status but don't have any status to work in this industry? And I wanted to add this in the conversation. There are several industries in the Bahamas where only Bahamians or Bahamian citizens can work in. And one of those industry is hair braiding. Only, I'm not sure if you knew that, Aaron, only Bahamians are allowed to braid hair in the Bahamas. And if anyone listening on this can do contrary to that, can always call in and say something different. But only Bahamians, from what I know, can braid hair.
Now,
so let me finish this. I can let you know. So if you are a Bahamian woman and you have, as a business, persons come in paying people to do your hair who are not have status to be here to braid hair, you're committing a crime. You're hiring people that not supposed to be in that industry.
Now, repeat the last part just now, you said?
If you're a Bahamian woman and you need your hair done, so you hired a person who is not of a Bahamian citizen.
Who's not a Bahamian citizen.
To braid your hair, you are now facilitating a crime. I want to say that. And also, if you are a Bahamian man and you hire a person who is not a Bahamian citizen to cut your hair, because that too is only an industry only belonging to Bahamian citizens to establish a business.
Okay, I just want to...
Go ahead.
I understand the policy. Hair braiding, barber services are restricted to Bahamians only.
Yes.
I want to ask the question, why was this policy created? Was the policy created to prevent hoteliers and massive hotels for bringing in foreigners that they can hire at a lower wage than they could hire Bahamians at to do that service, right? When I thought of it, I thought, oh, okay, if I were a Bahamian, I would lobby to make that a category protected for Bahamians only, to protect it because hotels could bring in, and cruise ships, you could imagine the cruise ships bring in people to braid hair while the passengers on the cruise ship but in Bahamian waters.
Yes. And perhaps that is the reason. But we have not an issue, right? But we have persons here who are in transition, who born in the Bahamas, who cannot technically work, but have now do entrepreneurial type businesses in order to sustain themselves. They finish high school. They're born in the Bahamas, finished high school, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, waiting on their status. And they would go in the industry or independent industry of cutting hair, I guess, or braiding, but it's illegal.
See, that's why the question of the interpretation of those particular provisions, right, that the person may apply at 18, whether it means that there is a debate, whether it means that you have the citizenship, but you are unable to have it conveyed, right? It's automatic, but you get to make the decision at 18 which one you want, right? If you want to choose Bahamian or the other one that is available to you.
Yes.
And so some people actually register their children from birth. They don't wait until the child turns 18 to go in and say, hey, I want to apply. They go into immigration from birth and say, hey, this is my child.
But that don't help you them at all. You can register as much as you want. You don't have status until it's granted to you.
But I'm telling you, there is a debate on whether the status is automatic. And these questions are important, Mr. Newry, because if we're using the term Bahamian and waiting, it suggests that they're only waiting for the time for it to be granted, right? And should those people be allowed to work as Bahamians?
I'm
Because
sure that
some lawyers argue that they are Bahamians.
But only cabinet could say yay or nay, and they can say nay. Your A is not automatic.
Only one draw in the cabinet, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Only one draw in the cabinet.
Only one draw matter. But we have a caller here. But I want us to hash this out. And what you
People asking for the numbers.
The numbers again? Okay, the numbers are 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259. And of course, if you are on the family island, you can dial 300-5720. And of course, caller can hear me. Caller can hear me?
Hello.
Hello, go ahead.
Hey, morning. How you do?
I'm doing well.
Good, Miss Green. How are you?
Good, thank you, sir.
Good. Let me ask you two questions, please. The first one: if your mommy had missed and had you in China, and your doctor system for 18 years, just played through the system for 18 years.
Okay.
Then you become 18 years in one day. Now you're supposed to be a Bahamian born in China. What do you know about the Bahamas? Never been to the Bahamas in your life.
I got you.
Okay.
You're a stranger in your own land.
Let me even add this to it, because it's not a necessarily immigration conversation we're having today.
I want to guess what you want to talk to.
But I want to say this. At this present time, we are debating automatic citizenship of a Bahamian man being able to transfer his citizenship to his child. Right?
It should be.
And that's automatic, and the Privy Council ruled and said it should be automatic.
It should be.
And that our legal framework is working on how it's going to be, and they're saying that DNA tests, etc., etc., etc. So I'm just starting that off of that and saying this: imagine a Bahamian man moved to China, right? Had a child there. That child is automatically Bahamian because it's a Bahamian man, right?
Yeah.
Now imagine that child who is now Chinese and Bahamian, right?
No, you can't be Chinese and Bahamian.
Who says
You're either Chinese or Bahamian.
that person born in China?
You gotta be a cat and a dog.
I seen.
You gotta be a donkey and a horse. You only can be one.
Politically, right? There's two separate things here. Of course, you could be Chinese and Bahamian.
No,
Pause for a
you can't
second.
be a man and a woman.
Pause for a
You only
second.
can be
That ain't
one.
the same thing, sir. Pause for a second. We ain't even getting there. Nationality is a legal political construct, right? Nationality is a legal political construct. I will agree with you that perhaps in the Chinese law and Bahamian law, you can't hold both citizenships at the same time, right?
You're only one person.
That's the point that you're making. You can't hold both citizenships at the same time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And the point that I'm making, though, is that you can be Bahamian and Chinese at the same time, because those are also ethnicities, right? You could be African, Bahamian of African descent, and you could be Chinese of Chinese descent, right? You could be African and Chinese at the same time, though, right?
Well, I doubt that.
You doubt that. So you don't believe that a Chinese person and an African person could have a child?
That's like
Mr. Newry, I just want to say this. Call back. You telling me, sir, you want to have a conversation about migration and immigration, but you don't think a Chinese person and an African person could have a child and the person be both African and Chinese ethnicity?
Got to be. But our law allows dual citizenship, actually. But you have to be born in that. Like, if you were American or born American, but you have born by American by Bahamian parents, you automatically have dual citizenship because there's nothing to renounce, right? But if you cannot have dual citizenship if you're Bahamian and want to become American, you have to choose one.
Yeah.
But you could actually born American and say, I am also a Bahamian through birth. Yeah. An example of that is all IMBA stars, them there who have dual citizenship. we have examples of that.
I know
but people. Yeah, but that's not what we're debating here. But of course, various Bahamians have different views on it. But the Constitution is clear, and we have a lot of examples of that. But I want to make this point also, and I'm going to let you yield to you, Aaron. Yeah. Imagine the same example I gave. A Bahamian had a child in China. Now, that child is Bahamian by birth, by the Bahamian father, and Chinese because he born there, right? Semantics about dual citizenship, we could argue about that later on. But that same child, who is Bahamian because of the father, can now have a child at this present time, unless we change some law, right? And when he has that child, because that child, the man is Bahamian, he is still able to transfer that citizenship, even though he hasn't come to the Bahamas at this present time. Now, perhaps in the future we make a law to say, well, maybe born Bahamian is the disclaimer, or have to be living in the Bahamas for a certain period of time. But at this present time, if you were Bahamian by birth and you had a child in China, for example, and that child had a child again in China, never came to the Bahamas, that citizenship can be transferred at this present time, from what I understand. I just want to make that point. But go ahead, Aaron.
I mean, I think there are examples in Bahamian law. There may be one particular example with immigration where if the father was born in the Bahamas and the father has a child outside of the Bahamas, right? I think there's one particular example, but we see it in the Haitian Constitution where if you were born in Haiti, right, and you go to another country without proper status, undocumented, you have a child there. The child that you have is Haitian.
Yeah.
But that child, because that child was not born in Haiti, they don't have the same right to have the state automatically convey their citizenship to their child, right? And so we could perhaps have a mechanism like that, right, where first generation, second generation, there must be a requirement for birth in the Bahamas. But there are mechanisms. And
having a text here was asking whether, or suggesting that the Bahamian man must be married. But I know that in the new ruling by the Privy Council, we're talking about single men.
No, we're talking about, not single men. We're talking about men who have children outside of wedlock.
Outside, yes, that's single men.
That's not single men. Because a married man could have a child outside of wedlock.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
It's not about whether the man is married. It's about the relationship between the man and the woman. So it's not that he has to be single. It's that he has to not be, it's that he's not married to the mother.
And again, the text is saying that if a single man had a child, it cannot be outside the Bahamas. It has to be born in the Bahamas. But I didn't understand that. Perhaps that's a rule too, that you have to be single and the child has to be born in the Bahamas also, and then that child gets automatic citizenship. So that's different. I didn't look at it that way.
The whole point, the question that I asked though is this: does this equalize men and women constitutionally in the law? Right? Is a man's citizenship conveyed by the state to his children in the same way that a woman's citizenship
but not
is
according to
conveyed
this
by
text.
the state
Because
to
now,
children? Right,
so imagine a single woman having a child in the United States. Shouldn't that child be automatically Bahamian? And if a single man had a child in the United States, the same conveying of, once you can prove that's your child, the same conveyance?
And I think that was the intent of the 2016 gender equality referendum, to create constitutional equality between men and women. In reference to the citizenship articles, right? It was to ensure that the state conveys the citizenship of a man to his children in the same way that the state conveys citizenship of a woman woman's citizenship to her children.
But we have another caller here, and let's patch the caller through. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Okay, let's go to the next caller. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Chinese Ambassador, Newry.
Go ahead.
All right. Listen, does that work the other way? The scenario you painted with a child in China whose father is Bahamian can pass Bahamian citizenship on to her children or his children. Is that equal in China where he can also pass on the Chinese citizenship?
And I do not know the Chinese constitution, you know. There is a saying that if you're Chinese, use Chinese, no matter where you're born. You can look at you and say, use Chinese. You don't stop. You don't stop being Chinese.
Okay.
But I understand the point with citizenship.
They don't say that about They don't say that about Africans, eh?
No.
Sorry, I don't mean to take from your time.
Yeah.
But hold on, though. But one more quick one. Obviously, seems to be a move for the Africans to actually come back home now because apparently there's going to be a new currency floating around that Africans may have advantage of, especially if they could prove they're from Ethiopia. Newry.
I hear that, but I have to wait till such things come to pass.
All right, sir. All right, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, Aaron.
Pleasure.
Yes, sir.
So, but let's go back to the initial scenario, right? Those persons who were working in the salon, right? So the immigration apparently detained them, and they realized that they did have status, right? But they didn't have any work permit because this no work permit is allowed for
that particular industry.
In that particular industry. So they were allegedly, released on a fine. And of course, the owner of that place more like may have to pay for that, whatever it is. And so I was wondering what happens to those persons that in between the system waiting, and also those persons who are here legally, like they have a work permit to be what?
So domestic.
Domestic.
But the kids are in school, so I got 3 hours free after.
And I could do some hair in the meantime.
Yeah.
Right? Should we make some considerations? Say, man, plait the hair. This is the man. Plait the hair until later.
So I have a consideration to throw on the table. Are we unjustly penalizing people because we are unable to deal with the breakdown and dereliction of government systems? Is it that people are made to suffer because government systems cannot move at the pace of people's lives, or the pace of commerce, at the pace of development? Why are people having to wait so long for these processes to be completed? See, I can understand, right? I could understand this idea that the child becomes an adult at 18, and it is the child that must make the decision, right? And so we say, but the child can't really make a decision of where they want to live. As a child, the parents are making the decisions, right? So we wait until 18 to allow the adult now to make the decision of which citizenship they want to hold. But once they hit 18, what is the delay? Why are we delaying people's lives in this way? And it doesn't make any sense because we know that the problem sits in a lack of functionality in the immigration system. I mean, we're talking about senior politicians and civil servants getting up on the radio and saying things like, well, it took us so long to find a file, you know. You can't blame us for that. What do you mean? That we can absolutely blame you for that. We can absolutely blame you for allowing one of the most integral and important systems in your country to become dysfunctional to the point of collapse.
And remember I mentioned a scenario about the barber shop before we started the conversation. And I want to ask you this question. In terms of justice, who do Haitian nationals who suffered a grievance from, in this case, immigration officers, right? Who do they go to report such, especially in a system where they were working in the industry? They have work permits, but they're working in, or Bahamian Whedon, they're working in the industry that is not allowed to them, but they were, in this case, assaulted, right? You can't go and complain. Everything get taken back from you, eh?
You go to the Chinese embassy.
What?
So I didn't say that out loud. Of course you can complain.
Who?
Of course you can lodge your grievance.
To who?
Well, first of all, you go to your embassy, right? And you ask them, do they have a procedure set up, right? Have they created a liaison or a channel with Ministry of Foreign Affairs? But you start with your embassy and you lodge the complaint. If it warrants a police report, you try and go get a police report. You take it to your embassy and you ask them for their advice, right? But you should be able, if it's a police matter, you should be able to go to complaints and corruption to deal with it, right? There are mechanisms in place. You go to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and you deal with it if you're being ignored. But you start with your embassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then hopefully the embassy do something and ask, can you assist?
But hopefully the embassy will make inquiries on your behalf, or at the very least set up the...
We saw the videos. We're still waiting on what happened to those immigration officers.
I mean, but pause. I don't want to suggest that the delay is only around immigration matters. We saw the matter in Bimini. We're still waiting to find out what's going to happen to the police that beat the little boy. I mean, we got matter after matter, involving Bahamians, migrants, international people. The only thing, I mean, these cruise ship matters get cleared up pretty quickly.
True. Let's go to the phone call because we have several phone calls there waiting, right? So we allowed everyone to participate. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Good morning. How y'all doing this morning?
Doing well, man.
You know, we are very selfish. I would say all of us. But we're very selfish people.
You got to explain that.
What happened to the Bahamians who goes to America to have their children? And we said, oh, my child is an American. He no Bahamian. Oh, she's an American. You know, and Americans must accept that because of their constitution. And I agree with Aaron. If a child is born and you're saying that child must put in their papers at 18 years old, why is it taking them 10, 15 years to get the okay, to get their papers straight? If the law says that at 18, you put in for your papers and you should get it. Could you please explain that to me, please? And also about the Bahamians going to America and having their children, please.
I explained the latter first. You know our Constitution is superior to the American Constitution in the Bahamas. Only our Constitution matters. I don't care what the Americans... I don't really care what the Americans do. They all mix up. We have a better Constitution. It's ours.
But he's talking to Americans. He's talking to Bahamians.
And I'm trying to say ours is superior to theirs. So don't bring up American Constitution with me. Just talk about ours. Just talk about ours because ours is better. Ours is better. Right? Ours is better. Now, regarding...
I mean, ours is the only one that... It's the only one you could use.
Yeah.
No, when you select constitutions, they say select the Constitution, Bahamas is the only one that come up in this jurisdiction.
Yes.
That's separate from saying ours is better.
So that means I ain't acknowledging the matter set.
He's talking to Bahamians. He wasn't talking to Americans.
And if the Americans want to do foolish stuff, let them do it. We talk about the Bahamas and we have our own rules here. And this, I only want to acknowledge ours. That's ours. Ours better. Be the Bahamas. What happens here, happens here. Right? Now, if it takes too long, they have issues saying that some fraudulent documentation or whatever it is, and that's why it takes so long. And that's semantics. And then hopefully...
No, that's not semantics. I would like to respectfully jump in here.
We'll correct
that's not semantics. This is a very important issue.
Go ahead,
right?
Go ahead.
See, you're talking about citizenship. You're talking about status to be able to work, to be able to access education, to be able to access health care. This ain't like, oh, you want to drive a car? Oh, well, we ain't having any tests until next month because there are other options available to you like catching the bus, right? We're talking about citizenship. This is not one of those matters. This is dereliction of duty and it borders on criminal. On top of that, the Bahamas has signed, let's go to the calls, Mr. Newry. The Bahamas has signed a number of treaties signifying the importance of ensuring that people have clear status.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling to find out. I heard you said that persons who were born here and then they eventually got their citizenship after they reach a particular age, and then you said that there are some professions that they are not entitled to wait.
No. I answer that. No.
Is that correct?
No. That's incorrect. I'm saying that Bahamian.
You said hair braiding. You said hair braiding was one.
Hold on,
barbering.
Hold on. Bahamians have a right to work at any profession, and you have a Bahamian citizenship means that you're a Bahamian. So let's say that only Bahamians or Bahamian citizens can work in barbering and work in hair salons. Bahamian citizens. You don't get work permit for that.
Okay. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So once you have the citizenship, you can do those.
Use Bahamian.
Okay. Because I was saying the police force full of them.
No, they're Bahamians too. I assume only Bahamians can work in the police force.
Okay. Point taken.
Okay. But I still want to labor that point, and I'm going to the next caller now. So, caller, give me 2 seconds to respond. No, let him speak. Let him be here. What happens if you have leisure time? If you have a work permit, say that you are domestic, but you could plait hair. You could plait hair. Surely you can say, man, let me go plait this hair for an extra $40. That can't be a crime. I want us to consider that. What happens to persons who have leisure time and say, man, this is not my full-time job. I just go there and help my friend out. If my brother owns a hair salon and he's short, can I go there and help?
And would there be a difference if I remained in the home that I'm permitted to work in and the people come there?
Yeah, people come to my home. Let's go to the caller. Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, okay, I heard you talking, right? The citizenship thing. Citizenship is a serious matter. Mm-hmm. You know what? And you all mentioned about Bahamians going to America and having a baby. But guess what? When Bahamians go to America, they go on the plane. Okay? Bahamians don't jump on a boat and go to America and say, yeah, I show up and I having this baby here.
So you ain't never been to Bimini?
Or Freeport, because that boat is nice.
We have to get our facts right before we keep giving.
Is the boat
come loaded down here.
Sir.
And they stay here, they ain't get caught, a drop baby, then everybody holler, oh, my baby born here, and then we give citizenship. I can say a lot. We are going to give away this country. We need to stop giving out these citizenship. Give these people permanent resident or something if they're entitled to that. Citizenship is a serious thing. We are playing a dangerous ball game, and it's going to bite us. They don't be right up and now, maybe in that 10 years from now.
Oh, it's biting us right now. It's biting us right now because we want to live a lifestyle that we are unwilling to maintain.
But we don't give out citizenship willy-nilly. We do give out permanent residence.
No, we do give out citizenship willy-nilly. It's just not to the people that we think is getting citizenship willy-nilly.
We get them. Okay, look where you going. Conspiracy theory, man, Aaron. We don't give citizenship willy-nilly.
Anna Nicole needed citizenship in the Bahamas.
But she had people
God bless the dead.
Could be near her bedside.
God bless the dead. Did she need Did she
was an investor.
Need it?
She was an investor.
What she invest in?
Houses and property and watches. You get a watch. I get a watch. Anyway, let's go to the next caller. Caller.
I ain't get no watch. That's why I don't watch
nothing.
That's
why you don't get no citizenship. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi, good day. Me again.
Good day,
listen, I kind of agree with what the gentleman is saying about giving out citizenship willy-nilly. My thing is, with that, is if you come here illegally, and not caught after a while, you have to put in for your citizenship because they have a few Bahamians that does it in America. However, the amount of them that comes in at a time, and the way they do it, I still feel like, they should go back home and apply from there. You understand? Which I doubt it'll ever reach to the government, to the immigration department, because it seems like a lot of things just get mixed up or mislaid or put aside or jump on a drawer or someplace in that place. But at the end of the day, if you come into the country illegally, I don't think you are deserving of a citizenship. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Let me ask you all a question. If you come into the country legally, right? Like you come into the country legally, the U.S. to work, not to work, on a scholarship. You come to study. You know that you are enabled through your paperwork to study and then go home and then you could apply for a job, right? That's how it works. You study, you get your degree, then you go home and you apply for a job. But in your heart, when you get on the plane, the first time you enter the U.S., you know in your heart you ain't never leaving the U.S. if you could help it. Is that a sin? Is that a crime? Is that like a conspiracy? Are you like, because you know you ain't leaving. Even if you've entered legally, you know you're going to do whatever it takes, legal or illegal, to stay. Is that the same thing as entering a country illegally?
Let's transition. Like, we can talk about that.
Wait, so you got one more call.
Yeah, I want to mention this first so we can transition and make sure we get that. Recently, on social media, it was trending. A lady, 20-year-old lady, face, was promoted by the police force to say that she is wanted for questions for murder. Mm-hmm. It spread like wildfire because, as we know, it's our civic duty to share most wanted pictures. So the whole Bahamas shared it, right? This woman was victimized. People bashed her. So police stopped her several times. But long and short, it wasn't her. The police apparently accidentally put the wrong picture. Find someone's picture and put the wrong picture on the most wanted poster.
So it wasn't that they thought it was her, and then they determined it wasn't her, and then they needed to remove the poster. They just put the wrong picture.
They just put the wrong picture. She was never involved. They wasn't even considering her as a murderer at all. They just happened to put the wrong picture and say, yeah, she wanted for murder. And they state which murder it is, because unfortunately there was an incident, about a domestic incident, where a woman knocked down a next lady over a domestic dispute, right? And of course, it incensed the public. So when they saw the picture,
it wasn't a domestic dispute. That would suggest that they lived together.
The man and woman lived together.
Yeah, but the other person didn't live with them. That ain't domestic.
That's not domestic.
No, that's It's intimate partner violence.
That's what you call it.
Yeah, you go on to strike. Anyway, domestic suggests that they all live in the same household.
So the boyfriend lived down the road can't be domestic if they go steady? Just asking.
It's a third person outside the relationship.
All these technical terms. But let's go to the caller.
Look how technical the law is.
Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning, Ms. Green. Good morning, Mr. Newry.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, this is, the topic is timely, but the thing is, I agree with the last two callers. The third one, he's suffering from hand, foot, and mouth disease, because the guy who called and mentioned the way in which we go to the States, right? So let's be reasonable and logical. The Bahamas has a very insignificant population compared to the United States. So even if, some of my people used to come over on the boat on Saturdays in the Fort Lauderdale area. Some of them went to school over there also, but they would traverse to and fro. But the ones that I know being in the school, they were ready to return home. And so the fact that you can't be in denial, even if the humans go there on a boat, that one or two of them. So what I'm saying is, we know that Haiti's population is 12 million, right? So even with Dominican Republic, they have stopped issuing work permits and citizenship, right, because of the problem they're having with the Haitian migrants. So if national security never seems to be an issue to all of the geniuses. As far as the overwhelming of the healthcare system, the school, the education system, and just in general the housing crisis, like you say right there. So what I'm saying is, we are in denial. Like the gentleman said, we are going to give away this country in this guise because also, let's bear in mind, truthfully, and let's be sincere with ourselves, this Nationality Act was passed without a referendum. So the Constitution is being hijacked, and our sovereignty is being hijacked. So it's useless to sit here and play naive as if, and obviously Bahamians don't come on boat to the States Park like that. But we know we're mixed up in human smuggling, along with a bunch of other nationalities. But when you see the demographics of the people caught on the boat, then you know that the Bahamas is the key place to be in. It's the shipment point. So this narrative that the government is running, but they're strongly against human trafficking, is a farce. Because human trafficking and migration interface with one another. Like C. Allen said, why are we? But I don't have a problem with issuing citizenship. What I'm saying is, why do we want to upload the country with cheap labor? It has to be somebody benefiting from this. You see this going on all around the world, where they're willing to let migrants in. This is all about exploitation. This is a financial construct to get countries to lessen their debt burden and create space for transnational companies to enrich themselves. It cannot be nothing else. Because America doesn't care about us, Because I haven't heard any prime minister, any country wrote a letter to the United Nations about the invasion that's coming to this country. It's incremental, Aaron. What difference does it make if it's incremental or it's a one time? It's been done incrementally over years, and people are not seeing it living in the ground. For you to suggest that only migrants live in the inner city, That's inglorious because Bahamian people are still there, and we can see the strangers coming in. So those little raids with immigration doing, the little 40 people in Bimini, that's like me going on Goodman's Bay and picking up a grain of sand. That's up.
Okay.
You know, I think I just want to make this point here, Mr. Newry. We don't understand the cost of things here. We see price tags, right? We say, oh, car, $2,000, I could find that. We've never really forced to calculate the true cost of things. And I don't think anybody has actually sat down and calculated what it costs to maintain these lifestyles that we live in.
Perhaps we need to have a show on that and the measure of cost.
Because Bahamians may find a day without migrants is a completely different world. We don't understand what it costs to maintain the Bahamas. And it's unfortunate that politicians refuse to have the conversation about what it costs to be the Bahamas.
Anyway, let's take this quick break. We'll be right back.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
Always on the go? Missed the show? You can now listen to Guardian Radio talk shows anytime, anywhere on Spotify and YouTube by searching Guardian Radio 96.9 FM or by entering the name of your favorite show. You can also listen by logging on to GuardianTalkRadio.com and clicking on the podcast tab. Guardian Radio, continuing to provide you with fresh news and smart talk anywhere, anytime, all day.
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. Of course, we have Aaron Green with me, and we're talking about things that are trending on social media. One of the things that was trending on social media was this lady whose face was plastered all over social media and the news, and she was not involved in the murder at all. And I was asking Aaron, does the police have a duty of care, responsibility to this lady? And what would be that duty of care after the whole world, the whole Bahamas see her as a murderer or accused as a murderer, as she was demeaned, particularly because of her last name. She said, man, that's typical, because she have a Pierre, a Haitian last name, right? And social media went crazy. That's them Haitian people, they're murdering our good citizens. And she has to suffer through that. Should she be compensated at all?
I think there should be a process, right? If they posted it once, then they need to post the correction and apology at least 100 times, right? I think the police have a duty to ensure that the public knows that they made the mistake and that she was at no point involved in this investigation. Even when a suspect, as a person has been reasonably brought in, right? A reasonable suspicion that they may be involved, and you put out a flyer saying we want to speak to this person in connection with this thing, you should also put out a notice to say that we no longer need to speak to this person in connection with this thing if they have nothing to do with it at all, right? I mean, I think that it's important for the police to be particular with the language that they use. And
I like how you said that. And in terms of defaming and brought in for questioning, surely the police has a right to call people in for questioning,
right,
and then have a right to put the face and name and say, I just need this person to come in. That's the only way they know, the other people out know that I'm looking for this particular person. So surely that's no damage there, even though this woman says she's being defamed.
Well, in particular situations like this, when you know that there's a lot of tension around interaction with migrant communities, the police do have an obligation to be sensitive and to act with care and caution. Their actions cannot make the environment that somebody's in even more dangerous, right? They're the police. They're supposed to make it safer, not more dangerous for people, right? And so I think that there is an issue, and in particular with matters around sexual crimes, right? When somebody is brought in for questioning in relation to a matter, sexual violence or sexual crime, and it turns out that, they've been released because they are in no way connected with the matter, right? Then there should be an issuing of a similar flyer saying, with a big X on it, this person is no longer interested in this person. They have no interest in the matter.
And so that's need to be not necessarily an apology, or at least apology should be given.
Well, see, then you get into the technicalities, right? So, say for instance, you've issued an incorrect flyer, right? Can you show that they were aware that it's likely this is not the person? Were they reckless in their actions, right? B, once they've identified that they've made a mistake, how long does it take them to attempt to rectify it, right? You identify the problem on Monday, but you don't issue a notice indicating that you put out wrong information for 2 weeks. That becomes an issue, and perhaps there should be a degree of compensation available, or there should be recourse available for the persons whose life has been frustrated, or who may have actually experienced violence, right? So even if you put out the notice to say, oh, you know what? This is the wrong person. We put out the wrong person on this flyer, and then somebody comes along and attacks and assaults and batters the individual whose face was incorrectly put on the flyer. Surely there's some liability. I would argue. I would go to court and say, hey, judge, are they liable to some extent?
Anyway, we have about 6 minutes more. Let's put out one more trivia question.
Okay.
Because we have 2 more tickets, Leave.
One more ticket.
One more
we
ticket,
had a text winner. We had
we had 2 text winners.
A text winner with the last 4 digits, 2648. They got it as well.
Okay, so this is going to be the last ticket we're going to give out today.
Yeah.
Okay, what question are you going to ask them?
All right, it's the HHT, Hannah Hasty Tynes question.
Okay.
A little politics. There are at least 3 prominent politicians who are, what's the word?
Associated? Lineage?
Yeah,
a part of the family?
Descended from of the Hannah Hasty Tynes clan. There are 3 senior politicians in the Bahamian history who are descendants of the Hannah Hasty Tynes clan. Name.
All 3. Name 3. Name 3. I'd make it fun.
You say I have a hard question.
No, name 3. Okay, name 2 then.
Name 2 of 2.
Because it's about 12.
Right, and the 3 prominent.
3 prominent.
Yeah.
So name 2.
Name 2.
Who are Hannah Hasty descendant.
Hannah Hasty Tynes.
Tynes descendant.
Descendants.
Yes.
Don't forget that
So
part.
you can call in and you win this ticket. Right?
Absolutely. The numbers to call, 323-6232, 325-4316, 325-4259, 242-300-5720.
But you still did not give commentary on leisure time. I have a work permit for a specific job. Job.
Technically work permits are very strict. You can't work outside of the job.
What if I do it in my house? You come to my house, I'll do your hair.
Once you're getting paid for the services, and that's a problem. Right? It is a problem. And so I'm not going to suggest we just relax, the law. Don't pay attention to it. Let's just fix the law. Imagine that we in charge. We no longer, right? We're not under the UBP. We're not under an oppressive apartheid state anymore, because that's what pre-majority rule was, an apartheid state, right? We're not living like that. We're in charge. We could just change things as opposed to breaking the law. I want to say good morning to the person in the food store parking lot yesterday.
Let's quickly get this caller. Patch the caller through there. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Caller, can you hear me? I sure you called for trivia question.
Producer say ain't no trivia question.
Ain't no trivia question? The time's out. All right, caller. That means tomorrow we are going to ask this question again. So anyway, have a wonderful day. This is Guardian Radio in the AM. What are we talking about tomorrow?
Oh, 2-year review.
2-year review. So we'll ask this question tomorrow while we do the 2-year review of the Progressive Liberal Party, right?
No, of the Davis administration. Buddy, I ain't like no PLP. I elected